We are back inside City Hall, and New Yorkers were offered a rare display today, a sitting mayor testifying in court about details of his campaign activities. The courtroom audience watched as Mayor Bloomberg answered some tough questions from John Haggerty's attorney about an array of issues, including his decision to run for a third term. So, was today's line of questioning a smart strategy by the Haggerty defense or an unnecessary distraction? Here to discuss that question and much more are the four members of our Consultants Corner. We've got Republicans Kellyanne Conway and Rob Ryan, and Democrats Scott Levenson and Luis Miranda. Welcome to all of you. I was mesmerized by the trial because you never hear a sitting mayor talking about that. And to that extent, I think for folks in your profession, it was probably a little bit mortifying, even though you weren't directly involved. Yeah, for 3 hours. But what I did find striking was the notion that a campaign consultant was on trial for stealing money. I mean, there's no society that has ethics for you guys, right? I mean, you're just considered professionals who are supposed to do the right thing. Is the mere fact that this trial is happening sort of a slam on your profession a little bit?
Oh God, no! It's an indictment, literal indictment of people who may have committed a crime. I mean, he's been charged with a crime. I think anybody who breaks the law should do the time, as the saying goes. And in this case, you know, there seems to be a nexus between the money that was paid and where it ended up, which was not for ballot security. It went to someone's home. But I'm not here to judge the defendant, except to maybe say I think that in every profession there are upstanding, honest people, and there are corruptible people, and we've had our share on both sides of the aisle. And I do think it's fascinating, though. I'll tell you this, Errol, for years I really have been railing against what I call staff infection. And it's just a clever way of trying to get the public and the media aware that politicians are always held to account. You know, we're always looking at them. They live in glass houses. We make sure of it. But some consultants, you know, they're beyond reproach. I like to say candidates often lose, consultants always win. They just go on to the next, you know, blood-sucking kind of campaign that they can do. And that's not everybody. But at the same time, there are some nefarious characters. I'm sure we've all encountered them. I'm a fully recovered attorney. That is a highly regulated profession. I'm admitted to practice law in 4 states. It's highly regulated still, even though I don't practice. We have no types of standards, and I think that's too bad for somebody who doesn't really like regulation. I would like some more self-policing, and this does make me think about that. But so too do a lot of campaigns where the candidate has lost and the consultants who took the money are quick to blame the candidate. He was too old, he didn't listen, she's so dumb.
I agree, because now anybody is a consultant. I mean, so
right, abracadabra, right.
that creates this aura that anybody can open shop and help someone. So situations like this remind us all that we also have standards. We must have standards, and we must follow those standards as we work with our respective candidates.
Well, yeah, but you know, in this whole thing, I think the key question, which I have not heard the answer to yet, is why, when you spend $120 million on your mayoral campaign, do you run money through a political party?
I mean, there are a whole host of other substantive issues, but I think initial point of there are people who steal in every part of society, even in journalism.
But this was the Bloomberg campaign. The Bloomberg campaign gave the money to the Independence Party. Obviously, someone had to say.
Which is why we agree, rarely, but we agree that part of what's been on trial here is the lack of transparency from the mayor. And I think that's what was interesting about today's questioning. It wasn't just the transparency or lack thereof of this $1 million, but it was also the lack of transparency around the Goldsmith firing or resignation. It was the lack of transparency of where he goes on weekends.
Well, they tried to bootstrap those other issues in.
They're trying to wrap
this so irrelevant.
But wait, it's irrelevant. You guys, tell my viewers this. I mean, what the mayor said repeatedly, and this was a little bit of a surprise to me, but maybe I'm just not aware of how folks operate. He didn't know how much of a bonus was paid to his top campaign aides. He didn't know what their salary was. He didn't know what the deal was with most of them. There's no contracts governing it. It's a handshake.
For those of us who worked on the other side in the Pervert campaign or in the Billy Thompson campaign, we knew exactly where every penny was going.
Well, there weren't that many pennies.
Correct, because we have very little pennies. When you're talking about a campaign of $110 million, certainly you are relying on consultants and underlings to really
some
take
of the
care
mayor's
of the money.
bonuses were hundreds of thousands of dollars. For me, and it's just me, maybe it's because I don't have $17 billion, I am surprised that the mayor did not know that he gave a $500,000 bonus to a staffer.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned this. For years, people would say, I want to vote for somebody who can self-fund because that person will owe no special interest a darn thing. They are just their own man.
The philosopher king model.
And that's correct. But in recent years, and I think with the economy such as it is, and with very high self-funding campaigns, John Corzine for 2 or 3 campaigns in New Jersey, the mayor here, elsewhere, people are saying, well, hold on. If you treat your money that way, how are you going to treat my money? So it's a slightly different dynamic now that we have some macroeconomic savvy.
If you spend without control, if you spend your own money without control,
and I think you also end up seeing, you know, the candidate can't be bought, quote unquote, but the candidate can buy other people.
Right.
Well, I mean, and that's the problem
that many have referred to.
Or certainly send their kids to college, yes.
Or buy a house. We've got some more stuff to talk about. We're going to get to that in a minute. We'll take a break and then we'll rejoin our Consultants Corner. Later on, I'll tell you how you can comment on tonight's program. Stay with us.